Recording. Hey, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to come and share their work with us. If you're watching this, you probably know the the drill by now. So we're just going to get into this thing. First up tonight is Blick. Put the link in the chat.
Okay, oh, you have the link, yeah, because it's just two epistolary letters, but the first one really doesn't make any sense unless you see the way it's typed out and stuff, you know. So this is called Compliance. And it's a letter, March 24th, 2022, occupant of apartment 2K, 1509 Boulevard East, West New York, New Jersey, 07093. Dear neighbor, just because I haven't any appropriate time to speak orally to you, therefore I took the liberty to write directly to you in the hope that you'll be kind enough to take into consideration the following request. Consequently, if you permit me, I'll ask you right now as follows. Did you ever anything here considering someone, or did you see somebody who was looking for me in front of my apartment 3K in the hall in connection with any messages, news, or information in the past days, weeks, or during the last months, or within the past several years, somehow, somewhere in the building, anytime? Thank you for your very kind attention toward the matter. An expectation of your reply in writing exclusively in the near future, I remain sincerely Q. Shibrea. P.S. I would not want to create the impression that you'll not do me a favor that I just requested. If you're interested regarding our oral conversation and your and my earliest convenience, if that is the case, I'll be glad to talk to you as one gentleman to another, to exchange our views, to discuss about subject that you and I wish. Your eventual, any friendly remark, constructive objection, logical observation, rational comment, etc., welcome. It is not only an appropriate, but highly desirable. Thanks again. This is the reply, March 25th, 2022. Dear Mr. Q. Shibrea, thank you for taking the time to write me a letter and to slip it under my door. I was surprised, pleasantly surprised, as we have been next door neighbors for close to 5 years now, and we've only met 3 times in the elevator. I've appreciated the help you've given me on those 3 occasions. I find the uniform you wear quite fascinating. As we descended the 11 flights to the building entrance, I expected your uniform for some insignia, some identification to its origin. Am I correct in assuming that it is the military uniform of an officer of a foreign country? Is it beige, Mr. Shibrea? Its color is quite faded, though you've kept it in superb condition. I know it must be an old uniform and that the proud manner with which you carry yourself when you wear it must mean that it is a uniform that has participated in some grand historical event. Am I correct, sir? Many a time I've been tempted to ring your doorbell, Mr. Shibrea, during harsh storms and when the ground is covered with ice. I am younger than you, sir, and on the 3 occasions we've shared an elevator ride, I couldn't help but notice your pallor. Although you look fit and strong, and by no means do I think of you as someone not able to take care of himself, I've wondered if I could be of assistance when the weather rages. Even before the pandemic, I've helped out a few other residents of our building during such emergencies. I have not contacted you to see if I could be of assistance because of the typewritten message taped over your doorbell that firmly states, do not ring this bell under any condition or oversight. Leave this bell alone. Leave communications with the super or receptionist on first floor. Thanks. Mr. Shibrea, during our 5 years as neighbor, I have not come across anybody seeking to deliver information to you. If I should observe someone trying to contact you, is there some procedure you'd like me to follow in order to relay this information to you. I shall only be too pleased to oblige. Sir, as the walls to these apartments are paper thin, I cannot help hearing you from time to time. I think it is healthy for a man to scream occasionally. I believe it purges the soul the same as water purges the body. Your screams are never disruptive, as I am a sound sleeper. Mr. Chabrea, I was wondering, do my screams disturb you? I try hard, very hard, to muffle them with my pillow, but I don't always succeed. Your screams are never whimpering outbursts of self-pity like mine. Your screams never seem to deteriorate into tears. I know it is unmanly to cry, and I hope I have not embarrassed you on the occasions when this has happened to me. You never cry, do you? I have the utmost respect for you because you do not. Please do not judge me harshly. Once again, thank you again for your unexpected correspondence, and I look forward to hearing from you again. Respectfully yours, Lawrence Kit Cantrell.
Oh, I love the way this piece is written. There's a whole universe in these two letters. There's two full lives lived passive aggressively in these two letters. And I love the way that you take like the conceit of basically like shitty underhanded correspondence between two neighbors and really use it to get at some honest to goodness pathos here. I love the way the final letter like takes that turn towards asking him, like admitting that he can hear his screams at night and then admitting to his own screams, right? Like you really get, this thing becomes like, you really get deep inside the pathology of this nasty relationship between two people who have never spoken to each other. And I don't know, that's fantastic.
I'd like to do a confession on here about that. I've lived all over the city, and I lived in I was living in the Lower East Side when it was when it was Lower East Side, and I was in this building with everybody, including myself, was psychotic or drug addict, and all the violence, everything. And there was this guy that I described. This is like a found out. He actually slipped this under my door.
Really?
I never yeah, I didn't even write it. It's a found out. I didn't write it. Okay. But so I made a fictional piece out of it years later by responding to it. But yeah.
That's
Wait, so
fantastic.
you wrote the response though, right?
I never sent it to him. I wrote the response
Okay.
I wrote the response over 40 years later.
That's amazing.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
amazing.
So it's I've been outed. I've outed myself that I didn't create the first one. And when he sent it to him, thank God it was all ragged. That was back in the days of typewriters. He had the red with the red inks going, and I mean, it was really, it was like Charles Manson wiped his ass with it. You know, it was an unbelievable color-wise a visual thing. So anyway, I'm grateful. I'm sure he's long dead. I'm grateful for 40 plus years he gave me an epistolary.
Wow. That really enhances the mystery of that first letter too, because do you have any idea like what the first letter was actually in reference to? Because there are so many like hanging phrases and like.
It was all true. Like he had that thing verbatim taped over on his mailbox or some shit. He had it, and he lived right next to me. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Did I ever hear him screaming or anything? No, I didn't hear any of that. But it was, I saw him 3 times in 5 years, and I was out all the time. And I was passed out on the elevator going up and down, probably for 10 hours. And I've only seen him 3 times. So anyway, it feels good to acknowledge the truth, you know? Okay.
Make a literary confession. Well, thank you, Blake. That was fucking fantastic. John is up next, but I don't think John is here yet. So we're going to skip to Michael and circle back to John later.
Cool. Let me just share the document here. So this is really out of the ordinary for me. This piece, but so I guess by way of background, I was, hitting the button on the random submission submission prompt generator for Misery Tourism, and I got, why don't you submit a literary thriller about space marines, you fucking misanthrope. So I attempted to heed that call. I love sci-fi, read it a lot when I was younger, but I've never really written it before. So, oh, cool. Thanks for sharing that. So this is a rough draft, just take it as you will. It's called For the Hegemon. Our fleet, some 8,000 ships, some 93% of the Hegemon's mighty fleet, backed by nearly 6 million space marines, dithers at the edge of the sun's crown, the invasion all but ready to commence. Through the wide viewport of the bridge of the USS Nathaniel Banks, I watched the flicker and gleam of the fleet like some vast onyx necklace against the immensity of our shared doom, this invasion of the sun. The invasion, the latest madcap target of a hegemon celebrating the 957th anniversary of his ascension, who now seeks to outdo last year's feat, the destruction of Venus, the elimination of that damn spark in the sky. Is everything ready? I muttered to the rear admiral beside me. Two other rear admirals, their uniforms bright with the clatter of the hegemon's honors, stand ahead of us at the controls. On the master control screen, our collective power is displayed as a massive green blob in orbit of the red circular foe. The sun itself throbs and flickers through the viewport, our eyes protected by a multitude of shaded layers to fight against its blinding terror. Yes, all the preparations are made. Astride each door stand a pair of space marines, spike rifles gripped in their mechanized gauntlets. Bulbous helmets obscure their faces. I look at the floor and think about my wife, imagine her scolding our son, telling him not to stare directly at the sun in a futile bid to find me. Let's go over the plan again, I say. The attack begins at 0700 hours, my fellow rear admiral replies, his voice relaxing into a smooth roboticism. Initial neutron volley, N2 volley, followed by tachyon and particle accelerated bombardment. Gunships and landing squads will deploy following the completion of the bombardment. Further bombing will be contingent on the success of the surface legions upon arrival. The success of the surface legions, I repeat. Yes, the success of the surface legions. And how many space marines are set for the land invasion? 4.2 million to start, sir. Good. I shift and the sound of the galaxy of metals on my chest reminds me of wind chimes. I consider the word I've just said as I would a chunk of rotten fruit. Good, I say it again. In the meeting room off the bridge floats a massive holographic of the solar system. Beyond the mass of ships near the sun, a few straggled green dots dash toward the center, the last remnants dedicated to the invasion. Slowed, no doubt, by the damage incurred from the rebellious penal legions who days before swept across the garrisons of Ganymede and Europa and stole dozens of vessels for themselves. Hours before I had swept through my executive level data pad and found nothing. No remnant of these rebels ghosted from our information systems as though they'd never existed. I think of the hushed panic right now that eels its way through the command fleet, a jawless menace en route to Earth, our home undefended, the hegemon's ancient eye squared on our foe, the great solar furnace. After a long quiet, a junior officer grabs my shoulder and whispers, "It's time." Following the officer back onto the bridge, I take my place among the line of vice admirals and rear admirals and senior admirals and vice rear admirals. The arch admiral himself is on the lead command ship, the USS Benjamin Butler. And as I feel the ship's mammoth armaments rumble beneath us, my face flushes with the hope and fear that the arch admiral is still prepared, as he'd said on Earth days before, to do what is right. Then it begins. The ship quakes beneath us, and on the viewport, a vast arc of light erupted as 8,000 ships empty their arsenals. A dazzle so brilliant and terrifying that for a moment you can almost agree with the patriotic blood rush demanded of us during our thrice daily rituals of fealty. Enormous beams of energy surge toward the sun. Void crafts scamper like excited wasps above the command fleet, hurling their salvos. Explosions boom like colossal flowers in the viewport. The heat from the sun's corona is too much for their invincible shells to withstand. Shockwaves rock our ship, and the rear vice admiral beside me tumbles to the floor and moans. "On your feet," I whisper. 30 minutes pass and the bombardment eases. I look at my watch and the weight of the pistols fitted into my jacket magnifies. Nearly time, I think, and I consider which of the soldiers around me I'll shoot first. One of the wide doors opens and an officer with the poise of a stork enters the bridge. The commissar. The man operates in a distinct chain of command separate from the admirals. Atop the usual fleet of medals the rest of us bear, an oval crest, the official crest of the hegemon, gleams like a swollen eye. This one goes first, I think. Fellow Space Marines, the Commissar declares, this is indeed a historic day. May the sun bow before the might of the hegemon. Across the expanse of space from the fleet, the sun converts its hydrogen to helium, seemingly undisturbed. A glorious day, cries the Commissar. A glorious attention, Space Marines, booms a voice over the ship's communication system. The Arch Admiral aboard the USS Braxton Bragg. For too long, we have been distracted beneath the boot of the hegemon. Even now, the rebellious penal legions have crossed the orbit on their way to Mars. The fleet must return to defend our people and our families. Now, join me in rise in defense of our people. Join me in... Static cracks through his voice like a whip, and the Arch Admiral is silenced. The fighting has started, I say aloud. I remove one of the pistols from my coat and aim it at the Commissar. An arc of bright purple light erupts from the muzzle, and the Commissar's head disappears in a fountain of blood and energy. As he tumbles to the floor, other officers around me withdraw their weapons and fire. The Space Marines guarding at the doors fall dead. The chaotic fantasia of laser light subsides, and around me lie the bodies of Rear Admirals, Vice Rear Admirals, Space Marines. I rush to the primary control panel and begin bringing the ship's thrusters under my command. It's time to return to Earth, I shout. Then I feel the cold kiss of metal against the side of my head. Step away from the control panel, Vice Admiral, a calm voice commands. One of the guards survived, I see, and now aims his spike rifle with the frigid calculation one expects from any Space Marine who passes through the hegemon's education fortresses. You damn ape! Listen, if we don't, a swift kick brings me to my knees before a gauntlet strikes my face, scattering my teeth across the floor. I grin a bloody gap as the panel flashes. My return to Earth command is going through. A door behind me hisses, and the clomp of metal boots resounds against the walls of the bridge. Brother, please disable the return to Earth command, the guard says to another. The second guard lifts one of my dead compatriots from the floor, another Vice Admiral, and enters a series of commands with one of his lifeless hands. I want to weep as the precious seconds devoted to my final command, to return to Earth, to stop the damn penal legions, is wiped away. Brother, shouts the guards, a grave injustice was nearly done today. Terrible traitors seeking to circumvent the wishes of our great hegemon. Fear not, for we have triumphed. Our great invasion continues undeterred. An ice-hard grip seizes me by the back of my neck and raises me to my feet. The guard, his face shielded by his helmet, stares at me. Escort the Rear Admiral to one of the few remaining gunboats, the guard says, so that he may lead our glorious Space Marines into battle as intended. The brutish Space Marines force me from the bridge, my last image of a Vice Rear Admiral shakily gripping his console for support. When we reach the gunboat bay, I seize one of the Marines by the neck and beg to send one last message to my wife and son. He responds by taking my hand and crushing it with his gauntlet. I crumple, mewling, useless, as I'm shoved into the arms of the gunboat crew. The gunboat shudders as the sun's heat melts the Invincimetal hull. I'm belted, immobile in the seat beside the pilot. Whatever he thinks, I'm not sure. Like the others, a helmet obscures his face. Keep firing, the pilot shouts. The Space Marine behind me strikes my back with the butt of his spike rifle. I use my one good hand to trace the sequence of buttons required to release the last of the missiles. If they fired, I don't know. The sun has swallowed the gunboat's viewport, and were it not for the solar shielding of my own helmet, the glow would have blinded me. My broken hand twitches useless in my lap. The pilot's fists hammer the activator for the tachyon beam. My screen declares that the missile banks have malfunctioned. Then it goes blank, shorted out, cooked by the sun's lashing defenses. The cloud of green blips signifying our squad of gunboats and landing craft. Only the radar shrinks to a scattered few. The gunboat wrenches and roars as the sun's pressure bears down on every plate and joint. All at once, the status screens go dark, and I no longer know if we're flying under our own power or merely falling to the plasmic surface. Sections of the hull crush inward. We're in the solar fist now. The viewport begins to crack. Beside me, the pilot screams, "For the hegemon! For the hegemon!" And that's it.
You had me at the invasion of the sun. This is such a great fucking satire of like this kind of fiction, right? Of this kind of like hyper militaristic space marine fiction. Like what's their mission? Their mission is the most absurd and unattainable thing imaginable, and if they accomplish their mission, the end result would be like more horrifying than if they didn't, right? And you take that like nasty like extreme logic and you keep hammering at it and keep hammering at it, and the end result is something really something really remarkable. Like Starship Troopers, if it was intentionally written as satire and not incidentally satire. But I'm sure Rudy, I'm sure is chomping at the bit to say something about this. I can feel it.
Yeah, so I like how that combines the best things about Warhammer and the best things about essentially any other like Starship Troopers, like the kind of political science fiction, and then just takes all of that and just turns it to 11 and makes it like like William said, the most insane part of the story is like the first paragraph where they literally like, hey, this is an invasion of the sun. But the I really love the little details here, like the ships, the different ships names. Like one is named the Braxton Bragg and the other is named the Butler. Like, so this is like a society so far in the future that they name their ships like after two different generals in the Civil War on different
just like
sides.
really underwhelming, unsuccessful Civil War generals.
Yeah, like the worst generals.
Nathaniel Banks. If anyone here is not familiar with Nathaniel Banks, look him up. It's like the perfect career of someone who's just failing upwards for the entirety of the war.
Yeah,
just hated by everybody, and Ulysses S. Grant just couldn't get rid of him.
Yeah.
he was like a very influential Republican, like a political general. So,
and Bragg, I think, was a pretty like was regarded as one of the worst generals for the Confederacy.
He was by far the worst. Yeah.
Yeah, and like it's just like just little details like that. Like this is a society so detached from like any sort of like understanding of like even like maybe possibly military strategy that they are doing this. And the part the part in the ship where he says he discourages his son from staring into the sun to see if he can see his father. Like that's like really touching and also really just horrific in a way that is really it's great. Like it conjures the best parts of like Warhammer and like all this like extreme like satirical like just the lunacy of war in addition to the horror and the other stuff. It's really good. I love it.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad I wrote that one for you guys, so I'm glad you appreciated it.
Yeah.
My friend wrote a play years ago. He was never able to get it staged, but it was as the similar premise of, the hegemon has ordered this invasion of the sun, and the play is set inside one of the landing craft, and they've managed to land like near the sun, and it's like one by one the Space Marines are getting in the exit point, and they're like, "Why are we doing this? We need to stop." And it's like, no, the hegemon has ordered us to do this. So, and yeah, it's been a very slow making, but we want to do like a collection of poems and fiction about this invasion of the sun, and the cover photo is just like a shot of the sun and all these ships like flying toward it. So hopefully one day we're gonna be able
That's
to
amazing.
put that out there.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I just want to second what Rudy said about that, the line where the mother, where he imagines his wife telling his son not to look into the sun to see him there, because that moment, as Rudy says, like captures the kind of like extreme false sentimentality of war films, right? Where it's like, oh, imagine your dad over there and what he's doing, and he's doing this for us, but you can't even do that, right? Because to look into the sun is to fry your fucking eyes. I don't know, it's a brilliant line. But thank you so much, Michael. And and John,
can I ask something?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask something just real quickly, because you guys are always feeding stuff into stuff and coming up with prose. Can you tell me what the fuck that is just in a few sentences? Because that was amazing writing, and I'm trying to wrap my head around how does the computer pace horse it or whatever the fuck it does.
Oh, this one wasn't
what?
AI generated. This one was just based on, if you go to the submissions page on Misery Tourism, we have that like random prompt generator. So Michael got the.
Oh, that was just his riff on a prop. You didn't feed it, Michael, you didn't feed it into any.
Yeah, I was
computer or
just
anything?
hitting the button
any
and
app?
just it kept spitting ones out at me,
Oh,
and
there's-
then I saw literary thriller
thank
about
God.
Space Marines, and I was like, I just screenshot it. And
This was
Yeah.
definitely written by a human.
Thank
Bliss,
God.
don't
It was
worry.
so beautifully written. I couldn't imagine a machine being involved in it. All right, I'll shut my old ass up now.
It's okay, Blake. Thank you. So, John, you're up next. You have a piece that you wanted to share last week, and you kind of got bumped last week. So I want to give you the chance to share it this week.
Oh, okay, this is news to me.
If you're not ready, we can circle back and get you near the end. Would that be better for you?
I mean, yeah, sure. Yeah, sorry, I didn't know I was going this week, but I can prepare something very quickly.
It's totally up to you. I'll catch you at the end. Okay.
All right.
See.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. So in that case, Keko's up next. Yeah.
Hello. Hi. So these poems won't be as exciting as the poems I read last week. But let's go. There are, I think, 4 poems. Yeah. The first one is After a Song, Sirocco. Sandy sadness and windy youth, the grayness of the playground dazzlingly ensues and returns the feeling to grow up into an idea, a happy strong smile of soft muscles ready to form, but where? Where did it start and where did it end? When was it given a name? South wind bears south fruit, south sand with south sea, south salt in south sun, sun south, south. And next one is the boy stayed too long, shaking the palms for a coconut on the underside. It was, of course, a very, very beautiful sunny Sunday afternoon. Mother called, sister screamed, there must be one up there. As I sought and stirred their voices, one getting stronger, another higher, lowered my head towards them. The bridge started crumbling into the canyon. Dry noise of wood, rocks, dirt turned their voices into water, and the dark gap between us suddenly flickering, flowing as Mom and Sis watered the abyss. I saw my chance and jumped in to swim across. As if my torso was ripped out, I was all arms, legs, head. The sky too recognized our effort and moved, burst, wept. So the river grew and I tried to swim across the flowing coldness. By sunset, the sky had cried the last cloud onto me. The tip of the sun turned the tops of the palm trees into New Year ribbons. And the next one is called The Setting Sun. Over the desert sight, oasis rises and I remember the ocean, how a vessel approaches a dock. I would come into you like a squirrel up a tree. Fishermen axed our joint souls. Like a bobbit worm they disperse into hundreds and fly a flag. 1,000 Aiken colors. And the last one is called Calling. No, the skies don't falter because of an artist. The artist falters because of an artist. The artist falters if he thinks that the skies don't falter because of an artist. And he knows theories are photographs of a landscape sculpted by time. So many photos in mint condition. He doesn't know but to delve into the landscape, falter to the cave, salute the bear, punch him, hug and pinch until the bear's claw freeze. Sweet red beauty, crimson ecstasy transcends into purple. The bear squeezes and squirts all out onto nearby photographers. The artist will chirp. Skies, they take the sacrifice as your own blood. And that's it.
I'm in awe of the way that every batch of poems you bring here is completely distinct from the previous batch. I've said before that you have a really incredible range, but also like most of the batches you bring are pretty like internally cohesive and consistent. And this is true of this one too. You have so much just like concise but incredibly vivid and incredibly beautiful imagery in these poems. It's really amazing how much like how many powerful images you can pack into these really like tightly wound, very brief poems. And I really dig that, man. Thank you again for sharing.
Thanks for the comments. Thanks a lot.
Up next is Gabe. Put the link in the chat.
All right, thanks, William. This
Absolutely.
one's called Intersections. Hey, I know you just got here, but you mind if we crash at your house tonight? My mom's on a bad one. Sure, want to just go now? Yeah, let's cruise. We began the 5-mile walk to my place, my parents' place, where I wasn't sure I actually lived anymore. Mikey felt safe there ever since that one night 5 of us showed up peaking hard on acid, teetering on freaking out, only to be greeted by my dad, who was still up at midnight watching Deliverance. You guys gotta watch this. It's fucking hilarious, he said, insisting we sit down with him. Every time they said squeal like a pig, he howled with laughter, whipping his head to each of us to assure mutual revelry. We could only communicate to one another by widening our eyes. What the fuck is going on here? I don't think this is a comedy. But Mikey seemed impressed by how welcoming my dad was, even in front of that atrocious backwoods rape scene while our minds were quickly unraveling on LSD. Since Mikey never met his dad, this was better than anything he knew about dads before. The rest of us, however, were terrified of my father that night, but we had to play it cool. Mikey had nestled himself comfortably into a couch, his mouth agape. No choice for us but to just surrender until the credits rolled. And when it was all over, we felt as if we had all really been through something together, a new initiation at a different place, as opposed to Mikey's, where we could do nothing, where we could do anything we wanted, but there was no direction, only credits perpetually interrupting the action. Everyone to blame because every boy and girl was a star, just like Crowley said, though no one ever taught us how to act. Only cues we expected each other to pick up on when we knew we had to start walking, like we were this night, all the way back to my parents' house. What a fag, did you just look at my butt and smirk? Sorry, I just saw you're carrying your ass pocket copy of The Outsiders. It's sort of cute. Oh yeah, that. I'm not sure why. I just feel weird when it's not there. Haven't you already read that like a million times though? Yeah, that's sort of the point, I guess. It feels familiar, reminds me of where I've been, and I always know what's gonna happen next when I read it, as opposed to how it is with us. It's like everything is a bad surprise all the time. But you know, it's weird. Sometimes I feel like we're all trapped in that book. Like, tell me what you said to me right before I got to your place. I said, let's crash at your place tonight. My mom is on a bad one. Exactly. Isn't that what Johnny Cage says to Ponyboy the night they get jumped at the park when they have to kill the guy? Yeah, I think you're right, though I've only seen the movie. Well, it doesn't matter. The movie and the book are like the same thing to me by now. They're both just like our stupid lives. Are you saying we're going to get jumped tonight? You've got your blade on you, right? Yeah, I've always got my blade. Because who knows what's gonna happen, man? Exactly. See, you just admitted you don't know what's gonna happen tonight. Therefore, we're not trapped in anything, because you just proved you can't actually make any of this shit up. When the light turned green, signaling us to cross Broadway, we don't care about the sirens until we hear them get louder, and recklessly, the ambulance carves a hard right into our crosswalk, almost killing us if we didn't freeze in our tracks at the shock of who was inside. That 13-year-old Howard kid who was always so tweaked out that he moved all asymmetrically, floppy and crackly as if his limbs were double jointed and detachable, because probably he had no calcium left. So his thin, sinewy muscles were trying to be bones now. So that's probably why he's hooked up to the machines in the ambulance. But shit, why is he smiling at us through the back window? And holy fuck, he's waving at us? And then we remembered Howard never wasn't smiling. So we were relieved that he was probably just waving to be nice. Then across the street behind the gas station, right where we were about to walk, we hear a bunch of firecrackers in the darkness, and we giggle because it's probably someone we know. So we start running to see who it is until we hear other sirens, and then cops running down the alley. Then we think, nah, they're on their own, man. Fucking idiots are gonna get caught. Fuck that. I'm sure we'll hear all about it tomorrow. If not from the gang, then we'll check the blotter. We felt nervous when we woke up at my parents' house, fidgety, like we weren't supposed to be there. Like it was time to go back where we came from, back to Mikey's. That's a cue to start walking, we thought, the other direction this time, because it's weird being somewhere with no alcohol. It seemed like a wasted night without it. What were we thinking after all? Because Mikey's mom would have just passed out, we would have the whole place to ourselves. That's maybe what the gang was thinking, because when we walked into Mikey's, they were all there, doing all sorts of things to fill up an empty space beyond simply existing. What's the matter, we said. Chadwick is dead. What do you mean Chadwick is dead? We mean Chadwick is dead. He got shot to death. Those fucking cowards shot him in the back. He started running when he saw they had a gun. Who was they? You mean like the cops shot him? No, cops showed up as if it was happening though. Cops showed up as it was happening though. Wait, did this happen behind the gas station on Broadway? Yeah, but he died behind Broadway Liquor. That alley is a dead end, you know. What about the steps? He died on the steps. Fuck, I think we were right there when it happened. But we thought it was fireworks, so we just laughed. We figured it was one of us, but not like this. I can't imagine Chadwick dead. He's the toughest. He's like the shot caller of the whole town. Yeah, well, I guess he's the shot receiver now. Sorry, that's not funny. He was probably talking shit. Yeah, but he was probably right. Whatever it was he was talking shit about. Chadwick is never wrong. That's why everyone listens to him, does whatever he says. How did it start? In cars, on the road, talking shit. Chadwick was driving, speeding down the canyon. We were all passing the bottle. Chadwick was mad because he wanted to go even faster, but this other car was too close to us, lagging. So he hit their bumper full speed. They flicked him off, then accelerated faster than Chadwick. So Chadwick thought they wanted a race. I mooned them out the window, my full ass. So they rolled down their glass and called us fags. That's when Chadwick really got mad and bumped them again. They showed us their gun, aimed it at us. I said they had a gun. Chadwick is all, oh shit, and hit the gas hard. So now they're mad that we're trying to get away. Chadwick had it steady, going at least 90. I was afraid to look, but I could hear sirens. We figured we were either going to die or go to jail. So Chadwick just kept speeding down the canyon, hitting the gas as hard as he could so we wouldn't die. He peeled into the gas station. We all jumped out, scattered. Chadwick panicked, went the wrong way, into the dark. That alley is a dead end unless you climb the steps. They shot him 6 times in the back. He died on the steps. You know what those guys did afterwards? They went out to fucking dinner. Until I guess one of their girlfriends got weirded out that they were bragging about it at the dinner table. So she ratted on him. Chicks, man. I love chicks. That's where the cops busted them, their own dinner table at some fancy restaurant. At least there's that. But Chadwick is dead, and that's that. Fuck. We did drugs about it because that's probably what Chadwick would have done if he wasn't able to retaliate if one of us got murdered. So we got high and wondered what Chadwick would have somehow wondered if Chadwick would have somehow gotten a hold of a gun to do it if one of us died like that. Someone said he did have a gun just in case something like that ever happened. So he was ready, just not ready for it to happen to him. Wait, so we're using guns now? Someone said, and suddenly our blades seemed like toys. That's how small we felt. He was the toughest guy we knew, invincible even, yet somehow dead. Now that anything can happen. See, you can't make this shit up, Mikey said. It feels like this is not how the story was supposed to go, I said.
Oh man, I fucking love this. I love this so much. I love every piece of dialogue in this. And that That opening scene where they come in and they're high off their ass, and the dad asks them to sit down and watch Deliverance. Because you can see a dad doing that, right? It's on some level like that. It's this weird kind of wonderful family bonding experience, but they're so fucking stoned. Can you imagine being that fucking stoned and watching? I'm sorry. Gabe,
No.
This piece is beautiful though, because it's consistently hilarious, but it moves.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Good.
Place of
That's
real
good.
emotional like poignancy, and the fact that you're able to do that, you're able to take such a really funny comic piece and take it to this place where at the end, like their entire sense of like what their like adolescence is and like the rules that they thought they were operating under has been completely fucking shattered. And the way you do that in a piece that's still so funny, I think is wonderful.
I'm really glad the humor got through. It was like, because I wrote it because, or when I wrote it, I'm trying to make a short story collection. And I wrote it and it was like the latest piece. I'm all like, fuck, everybody dies in one of these stories. This is like almost, this is like South Park or something by now, like this is almost
like
absurd. This is almost like a parody of itself. So I'm glad at least that one came across as humorous.
Oh, it's very funny.
I want to say something. I don't know. I was so pulled in. This was like fucking journalism to me. It was so real and so true. It just, tonight's my night going back decades. I was like, I was right in there. I mean, I jumped out of cars like that. I mean, it was so real to me that I'd have to see. I tried to read it. I never read that. I get to hear it. As soon as I clicked over and I started reading it, I lost the rhythm. I lost the rhythm of you speaking. So, it's like I said, it's Naked City Redux.
Oh, I loved it.
I loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to hit on something that Blake just said. The rhythm of it, like it reminds me almost like Nas or something like Shootouts is a song that has, it's like a narrative of a guy running from the cops, and like it's really visceral, like tangled narrative that you're weaving in this, and it just like when you saying it, like it does have more of a rhythm to it than like just reading it, because it's definitely, and that paragraph, I think it's like the second to last paragraph where they're talking about how Chadwick got X out. It's really, that is really lyrical and just awesome.
Oh, thank you so much, Rudy.
It was fantastic, Gabe. Next up is Forrest, or should I say Glenn? How deep in character are we? Oh, are you still with us, Forrest? I'll give him a second here. He may be having a technical difficulty.
Yeah, no, I have a new, I install Linux like 3 times a week because I rig my computer every day. I'm actually listening to synthesizer music that I've composed in my home studio. I don't know if I can share it with you. I don't, through the share screen audio thing, but should I try?
Give it a try, yeah. See if it works.
Sharing. Yes.
I'm not hearing anything yet. You may have to have the window. Oh, wait, there we go.
I hear it.
Yeah, this is some music I composed last night, actually. So I'll just continue. When I awoke this morning, I had gained full re-entry into my typical state of being, in which I may present a placid demeanor with ease and grace requisite for my title as grief counselor, especially grief counselor who dabbles in the magic that is Lacanian psychoanalysis. For the enjoyment of whomever is on my couch, it is of utmost importance that I am not much of anything but a soft breeze that glides through the unconscious with simple instructions. So despite the fact that my wife has been gone for 87 hours without a trace, or that my son is temporarily lobotomized with tranquilizers in the state hospital, and even despite your threats, Jules, which before this past evening had seemed to be an insurmountable obstacle, fated to doom me from carrying on a life that I deem worth to be living. However, as amusing as it may be, even though that your imposing presence was the first thing that entered my mind this morning, I was struck, as if by some angel, with unrelenting desire for more. I am grinning, Jules. And I say this because I've decided that I simply must tell you about a certain pleasure I found as I began to dig a shallow grave for the first email you sent my son. It's not really a personal grievance towards you and between you and I, Jules, except of course where it is personal, such as in the instances where you seem to be threatening not only my son's life, but furthermore my wife's, and so much so that it's driven her away from me and left me longing. It's not even the pornography which my son produced for you and which I now am forced to watch so as to prevent it from harming you. What it is that I detest of you is something much more alien than any of that which relates to my inner life. It is something other, like one may feel towards an enemy in war, as if you already don't know in your core of cores what it is that I detest about you, Jules. It is merely what you do. The politicking, the mock electoralism, the poor imitation of a political and social philosophy that for too long has run its course, 250 years of keen criticism of your ideology, and yet you seem blind to it, as if you and your kind can't even read, or if you can, the greatest minds of the last 2 centuries are some sort of joke to you and your ilk, as if you are only educated so that you could gain power and mock those who are more intelligent than you. So it's not you, Jules. It's not your party, nor any other. It's not even those individuals who are the most guilty of doing the things like what you did to my son, only doing them openly and carrying on as if none of it was anybody's business but their own. It is the whole flaming mess of a failed ideology which you cling to so desperately. Perhaps I shouldn't be so confident. I haven't thought about national affairs with any earnestness in years. What is most important is not that I know better, but rather that I don't know anything, and ultimately that nobody else knows anything about you and my son. After all, I was quite distraught yesterday, and all because of the power you have. At one point, when what in the end seemed to be some lost tourist driving down my rarely traveled stretch of road, I thought perhaps there were Secret Service agents stalking my property. I eventually pushed that paranoia right out of my head, and not without some effort. It took quite a bit of work to get myself to the state where I could begin to not only make appearances, but to truly feel so sure of myself as I do now. Perhaps I am not well, and I have no shame in admitting this. Several sleepless nights while engaged with the type of depravity that entire religions have been created in order to repress. Why should I be ashamed of my waffling mental and emotional state? For instance, I wouldn't do something such as omit my confession about the ways in which I rely on my synthesizer collection to relieve stress, the way you omit your reliance on my son as lady horror for whatever purpose it is that you rely. Perhaps I don't quite feel satisfied. Perhaps I don't feel thus far with what I've shared of my musical practice. Perhaps I feel quite liberated to speak about it further. I don't really have any other outlet for my sonic innovations, perhaps aside from the synthesizer themed internet forums I occasionally contribute to, despite the lack of appreciation the other members show for my content, beyond the photos I am wont to post whenever I complete a transaction for a fresh addition to my collection. Since purchasing the DX7, I've indeed amassed quite a collection of synthesizers and other music creation technology in my studio, a 150 square foot soundproof room in our basement, which my family lovingly refers to as my cockpit. If my wife ever discovered the resale value of my synth collection, she'd probably begin encouraging auctioning it off in exchange for 7 months worth of mortgage payments. For me, every penny spent on synthesizers has been worth it, because even if my music doesn't affect others directly, it affects others through me, as I consider my music practice to be extremely therapeutic. And the healthier I am, the healthier the people who are under my treatment may potentially be. Over the years, with a great deal of study and practice, I have beaten a trail down which I can easily become lost in a meditative process while creating looping chord progressions drenched in reverb while experimenting with new timbres. Typically, this process is a reliable remedy to the instances when I feel melancholia to be insurmountable. Yesterday, however, when I struck a chord on my Moog 1 polyphonic analog synthesizer, just a simple C minor with a light pluck of the flat 7 note up above, I began to coil in madness from the ordinary banal experience of such musical harmony. It's not necessary to explain where tears come from, Jules, I frequently tell my clients, as crying is itself a form of communication. But yesterday, when my melancholia could not even withstand a simple C minor chord played on one of my most treasured lush patches I've crafted over the years, I forced myself to take a step back and reevaluate what could be done to adjust my musical therapy for the entirely unique mental and emotional state I am faced with these days. So I've made a strict set of rules. For instance, I have decided to stop listening to music that could give rise to emotions, which is essentially all music. When I began writing, I played music from my CD collection. Then I began to sense visages of Valerie and the harmonies of Beethoven and Brahms, no doubt influenced in part by what I witnessed of you and my son on my son's computer. And the complex polyrhythms of the repetitive harmonic progressions of contemporary minimalism, I have sensed my son's ego tangling with amphetamines and gender confusion. I tried Baroque music, thinking Bach's Brandenburg concertos would stimulate my intellect while perhaps lightening the mood. But then I fell victim to an agonizing mania that kept me from sleep for the better part of 2 nights. I even found the most rigid house music to be a burden, as it inevitably brought fantasies of my son in some compromised state coerced into an undesirable behavior while dancing in seedy techno clubs. And even though I can be sure Bach alone is not to blame, under my current time constraints, I can see no option but to eliminate any sensory stimulation that might affect my mood. And so last night, instead of composing a new generative ambient piece, I recorded a series of machines to accompany my work. Gasoline engines, refrigerator hums, the whirling of the inside of my son's laptop, and so on, and compiled these sounds arrhythmically in computer software. At first, I had tried adding the noises from plumbing to this collage, but I found the sound of water to contain too much feeling, so omitted them from the final draft. I can't even count the hours I spent. I was lost in the process, adjusting microphones and equalizers as I was hyper-focused on the minuscule tonal difference of creaking rafters and electrical hums. Perhaps I would not even listen to any music at all if it was not for silence, which as of late I found to be the most emotionally haunting sound imaginable. All this is to bring me to the point where I can carve out in stone what it is that he responded to my son as he advertised himself as a lady whore. At least now I can laugh a little bit at the thought of your slimy fat fingers making typos as you rush to come off as suave on the internet. Nevertheless, out of the many men who responded to my son's ad, yours was the only one that garnered his attention. I suppose you know how to show your value tools without explicitly telling it. And so you say, "Hi, I'm absolutely enthralled by your tantalizing and enticing offer to underwrite your erotic muse. I'm an older, white, highly educated, widely traveled, very cultured, successfully professional entrepreneur who loves to cavorts with and spoil naughty, provocatively stylish, smart, sexually adventurous young women. I'm especially fond of women who want to introduce me into their kinky cravings. Yours would be an entirely new experience for me. One I'm sure I'd enjoy in its own right, or right, on nights alone in bed, but would be equally exciting to share and inspire intimate moments with some of my naughty playmates. Please let me know how I might engage you to explore mutual interests, including what assistance you need to make ours a most rewarding partnership. Shall we meet in person? Or do you think it's doable in Sireland?" And that's it. If I can get the music to
I'm so glad you got the music to work for that, because that was the perfect accompaniment for that piece. Because like, it's getting more insidious, right? It's gone from being a basically primarily pure, like, this guy is kind of goofy, this guy is kind of pretentious, to this guy's kind of mentally ill and that's funny, to this guy's fucking dangerous. And I love the way that the music has, like, is helping to like bring out the insidiousness of this part of the piece. I have to read what Rudy just said in the chat. He says, "I feel like Slimer from Ghostbusters just flew through me."
Oh, good.
Which is really appropriate. I don't know. For us, this is really fucking good. As usual, it was hilarious, right? But I do like that increasing like sense of menace that's coming into this.
I mean, there is something dark. It does actually feel a little slimy. I don't know. So anyway, there's something real about him. So it feels like I am doing something perhaps a little naughty. So
No, once again, the musical accompaniment and the background definitely it really enhances that. It's so good. I like the idea of like epistolary fiction with aided by a synthesizer. Like that's so like wild, great. Oh, and also, Forrest, I don't know if you're getting this on your screen, but it says you're still sharing your computer sound.
Oh, I better stop doing that. Yeah.
Just wanted
sorry.
to let you know.
Yeah. That could get weird. Cool. Thank you. Yeah. The music is well, whatever. The theatrics are fun. I've never done it. I've never really done this before, so I'm having fun. Thank you.
We're all having fucking fun. That was so good. I'm waiting to see how you're going to escalate this even more next week. You can just keep upping your game now, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
No. That's great. See you next time.
Thank you, Forrest.
Mhm.
Jesse's up next. Give Jesse a minute here. He may have to set up his microphone or something. Or we may have caught him when he left to go to the bathroom, but he may have missed us. Let's see.
No, Jesse's here, but he's muted. Come back, man.
Return, Jesse.
There we go. I'm sorry.
Jesse.
I didn't know I was muted.
Oh,
Here we
okay.
go.
First
Four
of all-
dreams.
First of
What's
all,
that?
Jesse, can we?
Yes.
I saw your tweet. So you got a new publisher for your poetry.
Yes. Yeah.
Can we get some W's in the chat for Jesse? That's fucking great. Congratulations, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is 4 dream stories. The Rolling Stones concert, dream 1. Let me just tell you about a wild dream I had about a Rolling Stones concert I went to. I don't know how I ended up there, but right away they pulled out this hologram of Mick Jagger that started glitching out. He looked really overweight for how you normally think of him, like a clown. It turns out it was one of those cover bands. Periodically, a switch would appear in the air above every single member in the audience, and you'd have to select what you wanted the band to do, what songs they would play. The switches were linked to everybody's credit cards, so the concert ended up costing $220 a piece. The weird thing was, when you looked over at other people's switches, you could see that they were asking people something other than what they themselves thought it was asking them. It was deceptive. It was one big trick. No one looked like a drug addict, how people generally think of the Rolling Stones. I didn't really recognize any of the songs they played. There were lots of stage antics, like people chasing each other with props, like in Scooby-Doo when ghosts are chasing the gang through all these hallways of doors, popping in and out of all these patterns. I kept waiting on them to play Waiting on a Friend or Start Me Up. The Underwater Mall, Dream 2. It started out with the death of a major poet, which caused us all to attend a convention on a mountain. There was a library where we were all studying the poet's masterpieces, but it was competitive to get space in the library with the books. I was trying to get a look at the right books, but so was everybody else. I just remember being inspired to write something about a needle being thrust into a barrel of foam. Fuck the suds was the terminology I used, I believe. It was all very inspiring. Then the scene shifted to a mall where I was wandering as I do in every large dream building. I went through the whole mall once, and over time I figured out that the mall was underwater and that a great breach was coming where the water pressure would flood the mall, killing everybody. But no one seemed to sense this but me. I kept envisioning what would happen and how to be safe, if that was at all possible. Jumping through glass walls, how would that help? There was already a pool in the mall that I kept envisioning the water level rising, so jumping in the pool seemed like a way to stay safe. Then there was a very strange passage where I was running down the mountain road toward the mall at night. This was the day that the breach would happen, and I was headed for the mall to loot it before the catastrophe. I had on a mask and a black hoodie. I saw cars and other running robbers headed down the road behind me. After me, you could hear the runners' heavy breathing, and again there was the powerful feeling of competition. Not sure how I got to the underwater mall when I was on the mountain road. The first place I went was the lowest and most dangerous point of them all, where I had earlier set up businesses like chocolate. There were people sitting around in chairs, ignorant of the fact I set up chocolate shops nearby. They also seemed ignorant of the fact they're about to drown. I showed them the chocolate and they seemed to finally notice. I went and got 3 large malt balls and put them inside 3 blobs of pistachio ice cream, put them in a bag and took them with me to the upper part of the mall where survival seemed the most likely. It was every man for himself. Again, in my mind movie, I kept seeing the place flooding. I woke up with the most terrible feeling that something awful was about to happen. It bled over into consciousness, as the worst nightmares tend to do. A shockwave of clarification, dream 3. Little terrorist kid destroys a floor, misbehavior, dancing crazily with drumsticks in front of a video of another child trying to blot her out in a video composite. Being quietly bitched out by a cross between Jimmy Fallon and Michael J. Fox after closing the door to his office. Going to check on a very old P.O. box at a college campus I once attended. I forgot the number, but they gave it to me anyway. There's a poem wrapped in plastic I must have put there during the pandemic year. Can't remember what the poem was about, but the script was interesting. You could place it in my Irv by comparing the orthography with other written drafts from other eras, letters of different sizes and ligature matrices like Arabic calligraphy. The storyline of the dream hovered on the edge of significance, but I got the feeling that, like a mystery, once the end was reached, a shockwave of clarification will be sent backwards through the narrative of the dream. Aha moment, coherence, already chewed bubblegum. Prejudice against astrological sortings, that replaces the prejudice of black, brown, yellow, red skin. Couldn't tell the itch from the scratch. It smells like electrified cum. The hotel's spiritual advisor, dream 4. No religion matches neatly, said the hotel's spiritual advisor. He had to kiss everybody on the cheek. The girl said she didn't want to see me again, and it was sad how much of a shocker this was to me. So much hotel dream. The hotel had grown like a massive fungus to overtake the golf course. Annex upon annex upon annex. All these new features. It was my first day back on the job. No one trained me to the new building, no maps. I just wandered about trying to look busy, but looking for the smoking area. I don't know if I saw anybody I knew. They must have been disguised by the job. Young people in the smoking area fucking around like a different race or species. It's hard to transcribe the dream without the memories of the actual life hotel taking precedence, slipping themselves in. Guests and customers were swarming around the place wanting things, wanting to get into their conference rooms. Some of them looked so brilliant and cool I'd want to go back to sleep to get in there. I did talk to other employees and wanted to stay with them, but they said they had a long way to go. It was a long walk to get to the part of the hotel where they were going, suggesting miles and miles away. The hotel was immense. The real life woman I knew from college who came to the hotel and recognized me. The hotel is where recognitions happen that derail life. I could have run off with her and left my wife, or had a drink at the Hawkeye Bar and Grill. The hotel stories must be told one day. The pitfall is you rush to tell them, and by rushing to claim one story, it makes all the others tinkle apart like a dome made of snowflakes. Dream stories must be approached like the cabin in the woods made of mirrors that disappears if you should ever see your reflection. So it must be approached at the corners.
Jesse, I would read an entire book of these. I love
Same.
I love dreams in fiction, right? But usually dreams in fiction are bad. And Jesse, you've perfectly captured that sense of like straining towards coherence and straining towards meaning that actual dreams have. You said yourself in one of the lines, that sense of like, if you could just like grab the meaning and the significance, you could make the rest of it make sense, right? That sense of constantly straining towards coherence. And any individual line here is like right on the cusp of being profound, but doesn't go over the edge to being like some profound tourism or something. It's just teetering there. And I don't know, there's something really fucking brilliant about that. And like I said, I would read fucking 50 of these. I would read 100 of these.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Jesse.
Thank you.
And congrats again. I'm glad. It's called Handcuffing the Venus de Milo, right?
Yes, yeah. I don't know when it's coming out. I haven't really heard back from the publisher since I agreed. So waiting to find out about that, but that's okay. Thank you.
Oh, it's great news. Great news. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Jesse. And Sam. Sam is up next.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah,
Let me
no
find
problem.
it. This hasn't been submitted anywhere. I've had this for a while. Okay. Now. Okay, it's called The Banker. Look, it's a favor to you if I don't explain myself. Just don't call the cops. Put the phone down. Fuck. I'm ruined if this gets out. Everyone is ruined if this gets out. All our lives. I don't know how it will happen, but it will be more terrifying than anything that all of us, that is, the class of all persons ever dead, living, and yet to be born, could ever conceive. Even if we were all melded together in a sort of super brain, or made a concerted, cooperative effort at methodologically speculating on how truly fucked things are about to be. Shit. You can probably tell that I work in finance. Put the phone down. I work in the highest finance, and it is possible to work in. Hyper-competitive and ever-changing, the kind of shit that villains are stereotyped from, unjustifiably, I think. I know I sound arrogant, but this is a position that cannot be achieved by just competence or skill. Though I wasn't born into it, it was more of a calling. Just give me some rope to pontificate, please. If I just tell you straight out, it will be more ridiculous than it is. It will sound more ridiculous than it is. A lot of this will sound like a recruiting spiel. I was in the process of vetting my replacement. You demanded an explanation. Please put the phone down. I know what I'm doing and I know how to talk to people. I can never remember a time where I didn't have the natural ability to do something or figure out how to do something and how to get better at it faster than my peers. And before you barged in, I was sitting before this beautiful Brazilian rosewood desk, now across from you, with our reflection peering at one another in its immaculate finish. And I was, for the first time in my career, realizing that I was looking at a number I do not understand. And I was doing so with no one to go to and nowhere to go to even find out how to begin figuring out what it means. If a contingency plan was even possible. So apologies for the absence of that confidence and charisma I would otherwise exude. I'm going to keep presenting. I don't care. Call the fucking cops. This institution, this bank that I steward, it's the oldest financial institution in the world. It has existed in some form since before the Epic of Gilgamesh was carved into rock. In fact, at that dig site where it was uncovered, more evidence of this institution was found and confiscated by us. The highest office of this institution, in which I reside, is that of a sort of combined CEO and CFO. Now I know you're thinking, how can someone be both chief enforcement officer and chief financial officer of a bank? Isn't that too much responsibility? Aren't there reasons for keeping those positions separate as well? Don't these two positions have semi-independent incentives and commitments or different roles in the bureaucratic ecosystem, and are thus required to be performed in two separate roles by two separate qualified persons? In a cross-purposes balancing act of internal dynamism that allows the institution to better thrive and a sort of constantly maintained uneven energy distribution akin to homeostasis? You're correct on all counts. Reread your last questions. I'm telling you that the answer to all of them is a resounding yes. For you, I, however, qualify, as did my predecessors, each approaching retirement age, wringing their hands about finding a replacement that can actually pass a vetting process so strict that only 1 or 2 persons per generation in the entire world manage to get a second interview. Much of our resources are dedicated to finding future replacements to this most strict vetting process. And even then, they're only ever recruited like a week before the acting company CEO or CFO retires. It has to be necessary. Except once during a tragic accident, which I don't have time to go into the details about. We deal in what would be used by most people as blackmail. We keep a rigorous chain of possession on all holdings, and we never, would never, could never physically look into these holdings. All we know is where they're kept and how much of it is there. One number, the quantity, the weight, just like an ordinary bank. This is good news for you, as you've had an account with us since, well, it differs from person to person. What we deal in, the economy we are cornerstone to, is fantasy. No, not fantasy, rewrite that, the other one. The one Aristotle talked about when discussing agency. It has a PH, fantasy. Fantasy with an F would be whatever a person imagined, as though we could store it up on a hard drive and they could watch them like .mov files. That's stupid and not how it always works, though it can, and it often does. And that's not how it always works. The shortest way I can explain it in a single sentence is that fantasy with an F, that's more like a movie file or a novel, whereas fantasy, PH, is the ability of the narrative to be imagined, to be watched or read or interacted with. Is sustained potential for active user input, the compatibility with all referential relations and sense makings. It requires agency, someone moving and thinking and doing whatever the fuck it is they do. Embodied agency, discursivity, and shit like that. We are what make all human possibilities what they are. Possibilities to possibly be done or inclined towards or away from, consciously or unconsciously, any movement. We keep track of tendencies in the market and keep tabs on all the big players. Without us, it's all indeterminate nonsense. The Bible, the Vedas, and more recently, the Book of Mormon are some current flagships. Fantasies, with an F, die when the fantasy viewer stops viewing them, but they can come back. Fantasies, PH, are continuous, independently of user interaction. Not eternal as individuals, but things sort of reverberate through generations. Optional but curated premises of all of our lives, including mine. No, I'm not going to tell you my number. I wouldn't even if I were allowed to. I can say, however, that if you were to speculate on your own what my holdings were, and surmise that because of my position in this firm and because of my general aptitude at life, because of my position of combined CFO and CFO of this firm, in the hyper-competitive world of high finance, if factoring in all what I've told you, you surmise that my number was much bigger than yours. Most people would find that reasonable, but I can't comment. It's more like an ecosystem, a cell, the physical interactions of our biome itself. In your cells, a dynamic equilibrium of pH, proton, and electron, protein gradients and interactions are always in exchange, always compensating for one another, and so always moving. To call any one thing, the pH, the protons, which type of acidity, or the protein concentration gradients responsible for the movement would be false. It is the collected whole that makes the living creature live, not just the DNA or code, which is not really a code since it's not static the way a code is. We are responsible for maintaining and coordinating the continuity of all those uneven gradients distributed across all levels of material and formal cause, a collection of stacked feedback loops, which is what allows you to read this letter at this very moment, all happening right now in your body. Typo. But for everyone. And this includes your possibilities right now. That includes the things you don't describe with biological metaphors. We never know the specific contents. We can't take a look-see at what's in the vault. A few hundred years back, a routine audit revealed that some go-getter lackey had tried, relevant to my predecessor's early retirement. And anyway, we typically deal with dictators, world leaders, first world nowadays, directly. Now that first world is a category. Athens, then Rome, then Mongolia for a brief period of time. Any nation that exhibits a modicum of success in order, you can find us in the background. How do they acquire such vitality, such luck? Why do they have the savviest leaders, but not others? Some refer to us as believing we intentionally curate the causes of desire and reproduction, vital energies, in a sort of hackneyed economic metaphor, the spank bank. Don't laugh. This is serious. You shouldn't laugh about our being called the spank bank. I stressed to you how important our work was specifically so you wouldn't laugh when I told you that we are called the spank bank. We can't move around holdings directly among our already living persons, but we can sort of nudge certain areas, be more energy dense, and so the next generation will get the benefits. There's a level of remove. We do measure accounts with a somewhat crude weighting system, and that the more sexual fantasies a client has, the more they have in their account. The first sexual fantasy they get, immediately after that, their name and their holdings drop into our computer. And it would be pretty gross to look at that shit if you ask me. I wouldn't want to look at that. It's cruder than gold, but it's the only bit of information we have found that has any correlation with the actual things fantasy pH entails. And like I said, we do curate its distribution somewhat, but the process is very bureaucratic. Any overextension or underextension could cause the whole thing to come crashing down. And the few nations where rape and pillage aren't the norm would quickly become conquests for people who make the worst generals of Attila the Hun look like Mother Teresa. The exchange rates are sometimes a bit one-sided, yes. Certain countries are doing well, pockets of regularity maintained against an ever-increasing chaotic whole, the first law of thermodynamics. Certain countries you just don't go to, locations within pockets of regularity that you just don't go to. But these are rare and easy to wipe out. We can't not exist, though. We can't not do what we were made to do. The archives go on to infinity. I tried to trace the origins when I first came on. I scrolled back for an entire day, but there was always more, as though it's made up by the system as I go. Every human being on earth has a positive balance with our institution. I consider it a point of pride that we are a bank that has never dealt with a single debt. The sin of usury wasn't created with this institution in mind, though it did help us achieve a few ends in several prominent European countries. We only deal in the positive. Any idea you have about the disproportion of wealth in regards to poverty should be left at the door. It's not that type of economy. All positives are positives, and there are no negatives. There are not supposed to be any zeros either. The lowest natural number we could deal with, theoretically, is 1. The 0 is a thought experiment, and even then it's only ever just a 1 described as a 0. So why am I looking at a 0 right now? I hope this explanation satisfies you, who barged into my room for routine cleaning just as I was about to pull the trigger, wrestling the gun from my hand and rudely interrupting my thoroughly justified suicide. Now you can be the one to deal with this. Did you think I didn't have a backup plan? A C and D, E, and an F? I threw cyanide in the coffee. Remember what I said. Replacements have to be necessitated. That's it.
Sam, oh my God. Oh my God. I've said before, you have a real knack for creating these kind of monologues, but this may be your best one yet. I love how this one is constructed. You do the stuff you usually do, which always works with the use of repetition and the callbacks and the like gradual like layering and unfolding of it. But the way this piece unfolds is so incredible. It goes from being like obviously like this comic caricature of this finance bro guy, and that's funny and that's great, but then it becomes more and more insidious and deeper and darker, and you're like, oh my god, this guy, what the fuck is he? And then you pull the rug out of all of that with the spank bank line, and it comes so fast, and it it gets, and from there it just unravels into just such like beautiful absurdity. It's so well constructed, Sam. I really think this may be my favorite of your monologue pieces.
Thanks, Will. I'm still editing it. I need to get it ready to submit somewhere.
Somewhere.
Anywhere.
Anywhere. Yeah. Anywhere with the.
I thought you guys weren't.
I thought
you guys were on hiatus.
We're not. We reopened in January.
Oh, okay.
January 1st. Not to use peer pressure or anything.
It'll probably be a while before I'm.
Okay.
There are some typos in it. There was one I read.
Oh, I hate when that happens. Whenever I read on here, I catch at least one typo. But yeah, that was amazing, Sam. Thank you so much. So I know Rudy has a few pieces, but I think the last non-Rudy reader of the night is John.
Hey.
All right. Thanks for the patience.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. It's a bit different from what I usually do. It's a part of, well, I'll just read it. All right. Dead man is dressed in the usual trappings, wires like mink, wrappings, bindings, dead dog rubber strips strapped across her arms, legs, neck. Something was taped to her face. There was pressure pushing into her eyes that she couldn't rub away. She tried blinking, but her eyes wouldn't close. Why the extra restraints? Paranoia? Or was it always like this? Did David always strap Dead Man down for these sessions? And her eyes, they felt wrong. Shouldn't they be closed? Was this a special occasion or was this standard procedure? Dead Man realized that she couldn't remember. The screen matrix popped into static, a wheeze, a whine, light bouncing inside the glass, light bouncing back in every direction, tracing the hyper red outlines of Dead Man's memories. David, are we starting? This feels different. He studied spreadsheets, he punched numbers into keyboards, he wrote with numbers things that shouldn't be spelled out with words. He put it all into the brain room computers, the computer memory. Dead Man watched and thought about the brain room. There was a hole in her head where the wind blew in. She couldn't figure out where her mind ended and where the brain room began. David, something isn't right. A chemical attack separated her vision into greens and reds. David, she stopped calling out for him when she saw that it was him flipping the switch. There was no bridge between the brain room computers and her thoughts. They weren't linked, they were the same thing. They were sitting within her own head. She tried thrashing out of her bindings, and the bindings tore into her arms, legs, neck. What is this? Let me out. Shut up. She screamed. David held down a telecom button. Initiate terror program for her. The corners of the room twisted into a circle. After images hung around on a 1-second delay. The room was a red, green, blue merry-go-round spinning half in the future, half in the past, never quite landing in the right time. Future words mixed into words already said until they all fell into sync. Dead Man saw herself in half ghost. To the left and to the right, her always the half image of herself burned into the time. In the center rose a pillar of static. A ring of David sat solid in time guarding it. He watched her in every direction. The colors shifted, separated. She didn't feel dizzy. She felt less. When she looked down at herself, she saw that she had become one color, the green Dead Man. And on the other side of the room, somewhere in the future past, lay the red Dead Man. And in between those spun a circumference of red, green, green, red, and yellow Dead Men. They revolved around a static pillar. Its gravity pulled the room into it. When Dead Man was within reach, her respective David grabbed her by the throat, crushing any chance of a scream, and pushed her deep into the static until she was completely absorbed by cathode rays. She was raised of phosphine light. She looked down. Her body was no longer contained to its edges. Where her hair should have ended, ran a streak of yellow into infinity. Her red t-shirt, her pale skin, it started at her and ran away into forever as she floated through her static world. Then the static was gone. Someone changed the channel. In her TV screen world, she was now watching the brain room. David was in his seat. She was laying down on the couch. Her eyes were closed. Wires ran out from under the lids. Dead man watched David. David watched the TV eye. How was your day? She watched the eye watch David back. She saw herself open her comatose mouth and felt the words roll through the brain room, roll through the skin of the walls. It was good. The Matrix monitors changed to scenes of the kid and her fighting. She's doing really well. She nearly landed a hit on me today. And the conversation continued the way it was supposed to. But when David asked her about November, his figure started to blur. He didn't move, but he started moving. David watched the screen, and the after image of David creeped around in his chair, ghost arms twisting out of his back, turning around until the shadow of himself was staring at the free-floating dead man through the back of his head. He spoke to her. His words were searing. They burned straight through to the center of her brain. They came through overdubbed. Dead man, this is not a hallucination. We are currently within the area that serves as your mind and my desk. Programming will begin soon. It will be easier for you if you do not try to fight it. You will not be able to remember any of this no matter how hard you try. David's ghost snapped back to himself before she could think of anything to say. Her attention turned back to the interview. The volume was turned up too loud. It drowned out all of her other thoughts. It was the same interview, but the answers were different. It looks to be a pretty bad injury. You seem to be handling it well. Yes, it was a necessary injury. Why do you think that is? It is an important step into becoming something more than disposable. It is the first step. She was shocked by how cold her answers were. She tried calling out, hello, hello? She saw herself on the couch moving her lips, but it seemed like neither David nor Dead Man could hear her. David's ghost pushed a button. The channel changed. Dead Man experienced a terror program. When the screen switched back to the brain room, Dead Man's organs gnawed against each other. They were enemies. She wanted to scream, to cry, to throw up, but she couldn't speak. She couldn't move. She was afraid of disturbing her skin. She didn't want to wake it up. She didn't want it to find her, to catch her. She was smaller. Is something watching you? Everything watches me always. What happened next? I became one of them and I watched myself. Channel change. She floated in the terror program. She became smaller. Her viscera screamed. She curled to try and make it stop. Smaller, smaller. Back to the interview. Tell me about this ingrained code. It is a timer. We have entered post-history. No more prophets from heaven. The next Messiah will be the product of man. Terror program. She was now a quarter of her original size. Flip the channel. Interview, terror program, interview, terror program. Smaller and smaller and smaller until she was so small she couldn't exist. Where is your Mexico? Or no, where's Mexico? I don't know. I didn't make it. I woke up in the hospital. Maybe your instincts told you to run to the hospital. They didn't. How do you know? The eye searched for something but came up blank. I don't know, but I know. David looked at Dead Man's body, then back to the eye. Is that where you got those bandages? Yes. He wheeled his chair over to Dead Man and sat her up. Okay, thank you. That'll be all for tonight. He slid the wires out of her eyes. She rubbed them open. Did you get any useful information? Yes, it's all useful. They walked out of the brain room and started down their separate ways down the hallway. Good night, Dead Man. Good night, David.
That's such a tense and visceral and terrifying piece. I love the world that you created. This is a really brief piece, and your sentences are all very concise, and it's, you know, it just keeps moving forward, but there's so much there. There's so much world building, and there's just so much like visceral, felt, immediate like terror and disorientation in this. I really dig this piece, John.
Thanks.
Yeah, I like the, there's a line in there, I became one of them, and I watched myself. That's really cool. Like, it's like this picture inside a picture that you got going on with the whole piece, that like, where it's like this, like, you know, she's shrinking and, you know, she's becoming like something else really freaky, and like an Alice in Wonderland type of vibe, but mixed with something like more sinister.
Oh, hey, thank you. Hey.
Yeah, thanks so
Okay.
much, John. Thank you.
Thanks.
So next and last for tonight, I think, unless somebody really wants to do really has a piece they urgently want to read in the open mic, I don't think we're going to do an open mic tonight. As I said at the top, I'm still feeling a little under the weather. I will still leave the call up so people can hang out and stuff after. But last up tonight is Rudy, and Rudy has a couple of pieces.
I have one that's
You have
not my
one?
own.
Yes. Tell me
Yeah.
about this.
So this is something that first of all,
I'm not even in on this one. I just see it says anonymous in the document.
Yeah, so someone anonymous, I believe they're in the chat, but I'm not sure. But they asked me to read this. I did help them design this. It's a sort of, I mean, I didn't come up with the concepts. All the concepts are their own, but it's actually a 200-word RPG that and I didn't design this actually, and I'm actually being serious. It's not mine. So don't,
I believe you.
Don't credit where credit's due. And they may announce themselves after a while here, but
they wanted this. Is there a reason they wanted this piece to remain anonymous, or will it become clear when you read it why they wanted this piece to be anonymous?
I can't. I'm not really at liberty to say, I guess. It is an anonymous piece. I didn't create it, and I'll probably butcher the name. So with that, I'll start off. It's 200 words. It's called El Dia de los Nombres Muerte, which I believe in Spanish, if the Spanish is correct, it means the Day of the Dead Names. Okay, so this is the text of the game. Participants, 2 to 5. 1 must be the departed, the rest are the family. Preparation, prepare an altar of ofrendas at one end of a table. Set out a meal at the remaining seats for all participants. Departed, what is your name? Family, what do you call them? As part of the annual tradition, your family is holding their annual Day of the Dead celebration, but you have undergone significant change in who you are, which the family laments. Despite reticence, you have decided to participate. The family must try to get you to remember yourself as they remember you through offerings of food, drink, and other reminders of past joys. They must attempt to make you as comfortable as possible, trying to bring you home, trying to bring you back to them. The goal of the family is to get the departed to answer to their family name. If the departed endures and doesn't yield to them before the feast is over, they thrive and the family embraces them as they are. If the family succeeds in getting the departed to respond, the family wins. Either way, the family embraces the departed. That's the end. Once again, a 200-word RPG. And I just helped with some of the editing stuff. The person who created it is here, and if they'd like to announce themselves, they can, but they just bounced some ideas off of me, and we kind of, yeah, that was it.
Does the person
well, they quote Nick Cave, would the author please explain himself, or how does that song go?
Yeah, I was going to make a call them by their family name joke or something, but or would the person responsible like to remain unnamed then? I'm guessing. Okay, I actually think I know who it is, because I may have I may have seen hints of this in a Discord together before they were stealthily deleted the next morning.
Stealthily, not stealthily enough, I guess.
But no, this. Even though this person won't come forward and announce themselves, I think this is great. I love the. It's hard for me to believe, Rudy, if you had read this, and you had said this is my game, I would have 100% believed that, because it has that, like, at the core of so many of your games and so many of your creations is a pun, right? And I love the pun at the core of this one, and I also love that it turns out to be, like, honestly a really heartfelt and like oddly life affirming exploration of the subject matter, right? The subject matter here obviously being like renouncing your old identity in one way or another, or like the trans dead naming thing, right? the idea that like the fact that the family embraces them regardless, the fact that there can be reconciliation regardless of the outcome there, I think is oddly heartwarming, and maybe too heartwarming for a Rudy Johnson game, but
Yeah,
maybe
and
not too
actually,
heartwarming for a game by this author.
yeah, no, I love the game too. It's you know, like I said, I actually had pushed the author, who will remain nameless, to make it more nasty, basically. But I think wisely they decided, because you know, this is a game that I think actually benefits from, as you said, a more heartfelt and more emotionally distant or abstracted, I guess, view of things. I think it turned out really good, and I love it.
Yeah, no, I
And
like the fact that it's not a nasty game, because I think that like this is a case where it really would be diminished by being a nasty game. And I like the fact that you think at the beginning, because of the pun there, that this is going to be a like nasty satire of like you know, like identity politics stuff. And it doesn't turn out to be that at all. It actually turns out to be this kind of affirmation of like reconciliation and of like, you know, the power of familial love, which ties back into the whole like Day of the Dead holiday, like the sense of it being a family holiday. I don't know. I think it holds together well.
Yeah, I think
I think that there could be more, like, I almost said like mechanical girth, but there has to be a better way to say that, right? I wish that I understand, because this is a 200-word RPG, as someone who's made 200-word RPGs, like you're always like, God, I wish I could like outline the mechanics better, right? But I do, if this was longer, I would want there to be a more like precise like unraveling of the mechanics here, but 200 words are 200 words, right?
All right. Yeah, this is a game that I wish I made. That's what I'll say.
Okay. Well, thank you to whoever made this. Be he, she, they, whoever, be they in the chat, be they watching, or from
Be they alive or be they
you did a
dead,
good job.
I'll grind their bones to make my bread.
Okay, all right, Rudy. But you also had some of your own work to share, right?
Yeah, I have a game here.
The mechanical girth.
I just saw that. So, yeah, I mean, yeah. I love the puns. I'm here for the puns always.
Rudy, rescue me here. What's your game about? I'm gonna mute my mic for a second.
So this is a game that's gonna appear in Katie Naylor's Void Mag. It's a Void Space zine.
Oh, awesome.
Which it comes out. The magazine comes out tomorrow, so I hope I'm not like spoiling anything. But I'm not going to link to the magazine link. I'm just going to open it on my computer here, and I give everybody a kind of short preview of it. But before I do, I just want to kind of make an aside or a note here. This does contain depictions, visual depictions of rape. That could possibly come up. So like, if anybody's not cool with that or don't want to see that, you know, don't blame you. I mean, but yeah. So, and it has some other like just various nastiness in it. You know, it's suicide and that kind of stuff. I basically joked to William that this is kind of like a visual collage of things that in my head that are just bouncing around in there. It's you know, Katie Naylor's Void Space Mag specializes in interactive fiction. I would call this mostly like some kind of weird visual collage that's also interactive in some way. There's fiction in here, there's reality in here, there's all kinds of shit. So without further ado, is it fine if I share my screen? 1 and 2, I was gonna ask for volunteers because I wonder if people, while I'm playing it, would like to maybe answer, take some of the prompts. Just tell me what prompts to take, basically.
You know what you should do, Rudy? When you're playing and sharing your screen, can you still see the Zoom chat?
That's what I'm going to try to do.
We should do the Twitch plays Pokemon thing.
Okay.
Zoom plays.
Oh, see, I'm not sure if I can see the chat though. That's what I'm gonna. Let me try it. Let me try a screen share here. I'm gonna try it. Let me see here. I just have to close all this other stuff. Sorry for a delay here. I haven't actually tried with the chat. But I see Rachel is in. Some other Gigi is in. Okay. So but let me see what I can do here. So I'm going to start sharing my screen now. And this does have sound. So let me know if you can hear the sound. Okay, so as it is right now, I cannot see the chat screen, but let me see if I can change that.
If not, you could just have Rachel and Gigi call out the options, or you can call
Yeah.
the number.
Yeah, if you guys want to
promise not to interrupt.
Sure, sure, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, if you want to just call out what you want me to do, we can do it. And it should have sound starting after I hit the start button. So everybody's ready. I'm going to hit the start. Oh, actually, well, we can do a choice right now. What do you want to do? You want to go to start or credits? Call it out. Credits. Okay.
Credits.
Rachel
Okay.
also says credit.
Rachel's just doing text, so I'll read out what she says.
Okay. Okay. So these are the credits. It was designed with Quine Construct 3. I've platformed here before, so I'm not going to harp on that. But yeah, the assets were designed from things on Pixabay. All these sound effects, all cool shit. So I guess I'll go back.
Oh, that's Adam?
Huh?
Rachel Johnson is Adam. Ah. he's
Oh.
on-
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, gotcha,
Okay.
gotcha. Okay. All right, so here we go to start. Since that's the only choice that hasn't been picked yet, I'll go with that. Here we go. Can you guys hear the sound?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so I don't know if this Zoom thing is gonna block my shit here. It might, but let me see here. Let me see if I can get rid of this damn Zoom thing here.
Grab the Sega Nemesis. That's not replaceable if it gets wet.
That's fair. Actually, I'm just gonna do this. So I'll just so I can see the bar to actually do it.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
That
So
works.
if you can see the water is filling up now, so both of you want to grab it?
Adam. Yes.
Gotta grab it. Okay, here it goes. Now I gotta drag it onto my body. Where should I put it? I don't know if you can.
Tits, right, Adam?
Hell yeah. Okay. So now I have the
I was-
Sega Nemesis. Do I leave?
Yes.
Tick tock. Okay, so now I'm on the second floor, so I'm not in the basement anymore. So the water, we've got a little bit of time here. So we can go outdoors. Inside voices becoming outside ones. Outdoors is coming indoors. Basement dweller, blindness hurts. Which one? Outdoors or basement? Back to the basement. Or outdoors?
Dweller, basement.
Basement dweller? Okay, we're going back to the basement. Oh shit, we're about to. Oh shit, we just lost our thing there. Damn, so do I leave?
No, the Sega Nemesis.
Not the Sega Nemesis.
Leave.
Okay.
Bullshit. Fuck this game. Sorry.
Okay, so outdoors is the only choice we haven't done yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we got a serious choice, people. So we have to decide whether we want to save Reich the dog because it's cold in here, or if we just leave him to drown. What do we do?
Dogs can swim. Leave.
Okay, sweet. I'm not going to argue about it. You once threatened Reich with a stick. Good times. That's the only choice
he
here.
deserved it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure. The great outdoors are still seeping in. Branches tap windows like roll them down, motherfucker. So we can go back to take another swing at Reich, or we can go to this one, the branches.
Adam, which one? Branches.
Roger. Which way, child of the West? Child, or we think more John Wayne?
West. Clicking child is never a good option.
Okay, so kitchen, yelling, echoes, peanuts, womp womp, peanut butter, or power?
Adam.
Echoes.
Echoes or power?
Oh, and you see the thing is coming up. Oh boy. Oh, something just happened.
Oh god.
Uh-oh, what do you think? Echoes or power?
Power.
Oh, but we don't have the Nemesis. No Nemesis. Because it was
does that
destroyed.
mean?
It was destroyed. The Sega was destroyed.
Oh fuck!
It's underwater, so I guess the only thing we can do is echo. So someone left an old hairpin on the couch. Someone, who is it? Who could it be? Or do I want to pick the hairpin up and run?
Hairpin.
Roger. Okay.
Haha means hairpin. That's what Adam thought.
Okay, where do I put it? In the hair, or do you think somewhere else?
Mouth.
Excellent.
Adam's saying hairpin by hair.
My hair. Oh, oops, my bad. Well, I guess it's all fair because Gigi picked where to put it. Adam picked to pick it up. So
Yeah,
okay.
now it's an anxiety device. You chew on that, you don't feel.
Yeah,
good,
it's like
you can
yeah, like
forge
bite
the
down
floor.
on this type of thing. So someone is the only thing. Well, okay. So parental disquiet echoes from the hallway somewhere upstairs, the west. Where are we going?
GG proxy from now. I have overexerted. Fuck. The hallway somewhere upstairs. The what? Somewhere upstairs. Let's just go up. Fuck it. Let's save some stuff.
Okay. So we're on the upstairs landing. As you can see, there's no water because we're on floor 2. The water is filling out about 50% of the house, however. So yeah. So womp womp womp. Is it mom or dad? Who's yelling at us? It, mom, or dad?
It.
Good choice.
Meaning both.
So now we're back on the living room
Yeah,
floor.
like parental disquiet echoes from the hallway somewhere upstairs. The west.
So we got the same choice. Are we going to the hallway? Are we going
Upstairs.
west?
We're
Upstairs?
going up.
We're going up. We want to go up. Okay. So
need
it
our
we already
passport
used.
and our social security card. We
Hell
need that
yeah.
shit.
Okay. We'll see if it's here. So mom or dad? What do you think?
Dad
Adam's
has better
saying dad.
files.
Consensus
Dad
is dad.
always.
Always okay. All right. Advice. That's the only choice. That was what dad had to say as advice. So yeah.
Mom, then.
Memories equal words equal truth. You should save your money or back to your sinking house.
Save.
Oh yeah. You're reminded of how you always used to buy balloons with your chore cash. There are some in the crawl space, and here
Wait,
comes the
wait,
water.
wait. So your mom is right now telling you to go under the house while it's flooding? Crawl space is under the house, right?
I think it's a crawl space in the attic, is what I was thinking personally, but it
okay,
could be,
okay.
it could very well be under the house. So
It's just funny if the mom is just like, "You want your money? All right, go fucking."
I mean,
go into-
where is the
go
mom
into
at this
hell.
point? Where is she? We haven't seen the mom yet.
This is a voice.
Like what?
That
Yeah.
they heard.
Right. So, chore cash or crawl space?
Crawl space.
That the consensus. Alrighty. Balloons for a rainy day. It's
GG
dark.
puts the G in sage. What the
Oh
fuck
boy,
does
look,
that mean?
that water is that water is pretty close to the balloons, but it's dark.
Oh.
Balloons.
Balloons.
Okay. Oh, but we got them maybe just in time. Oh, or maybe we didn't. Nope, can't use the balloon, so it's dark.
God
Water hit 'em.
damn.
F's in the chat for the balloons.
But there were some extra balloons in this area, so we managed to get our shit into our one thing that we saved from the bottom of the house, the ancient pen. Put all your belongings into a balloon basket and send it soaring. That song from Mary Poppins surges through your souls. You know, let's go fly a kite. Oh shit! I hope they don't copyright strike this or something. Okay, so
That was like a book in Palestine or something, right? Let's go fly a kite.
possibly
You mean the kite runner?
the kite.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
So Poppin'
Wait, no,
what?
like Rudy, if we don't do anything for long enough, do we just die?
Oh, you can find out if you'd like. Is that the consensus? Just die?
No, let's keep going. Let's keep going. We're almost dead.
Okay, well, Poppin' Wood. Well, are you a boy or a girl?
Based on the picture, a girl.
The consensus. Let's roll. That set a variable, but it will never get used. There's the variable. Dad said X tie-ins
That's a great mechanic right there.
Oh, and here we go. Back to dad. Okay, so I guess we go to snore. Okay. Womp, womp, womp. Is it mom or dad? We're actually
Dad.
drowning right now, so I can grab the bubbles if you'd like, or should I just drown?
Let's die. I'm done with this. It's
There's
time to
a
go.
bubble. Rip. Okay.
I like how the water turns red. Jesus.
Yeah, that means you're drowning. Let's see what happens. Oh boy, oh boy. Did I drown? Where do we go when we die, though? That's the eternal question.
Dad. Adam says dad.
Yes. Uh-oh. A blurry figure beckons you towards the light, and you follow, even though mom says you shouldn't go with strangers, because they might be pedophiles. You can't help it. You might need an adult?
Holy shit.
This. Oh, no, I'm in heaven. Uh-oh. Oh, you think. I guess religion is real. You're in heaven. The sound of what might be angels talking is everywhere. But blaring above it, like a radio with the speakers blown, is another, more monotone womp womp. Since you're in heaven, you can go see your aborted brother, or you can listen to Cherubic Gossip. I'm not going to click this, but this is in fact the song "Speaker Is Blown" by that one emo band there, who I forget. So what do we do?
Go
What's
with the stranger.
aborted baby, or I'm sorry, aborted brother, or Cherubic Gossip? What do you think?
Aborted children go to hell. Everyone knows that.
Okay, fair. Yeah. So Cherubic
Cherubic
Gossip.
gossip. Yeah.
Okay. Blah blah blah. The talk is loud and angry sounding. What does Manson say in that song you aren't allowed to listen to? Babble babble, bitch bitch, rebel rebel, party party. Angels are boring. So are we more angels or more boring?
Well, they aren't boring because they're like just hellscapes to witness. So let's click angels there.
Here comes the angels. The angels here seem on edge about something. There's a lot of talk about the weather in heaven, which is rainy and very much not sunny with a high of 75, which is a Reliant
Heaven
Cape
is
Cod.
London.
Huge rain clouds dominate the scenery. The golden streets are glistening wet all the time. Honestly, the whole atmosphere makes you want to sleep. So are we going to sleep or are we going back to heaven?
I vote heaven. Adam, what do you say? Heaven. All right.
Heaven it is. And now we're back to this. So we did Cherubic Gossip last time. So I'm not going to go there because that'll get us copyright struck. But Aborted Brother? Anybody object?
Wait, what song plays? Is it "There's a Wonderful Invention"?
No, I think it goes
Is it
something
Heaven's
like
Radio by Hank Williams Jr.?
No, actually I believe it's who is it? It's I don't remember the emo band. It's an emo group. It's like it sounds like a radio with the speakers blown. You know, it's that song. I don't know. It was I guess if you're not a fan, I think it's called Hit the Lights is the name of the band. So it's Hit the
I'm thinking
Lights.
Flyleaf. They're like an emo Christian.
Oh, Flyleaf. Yeah. No, there actually isn't any reference to Flyleaf in this game, but I love Flyleaf. But yeah,
Underrated.
so totally underrated, definitely. Except only with Lacey mostly. I don't really like the new Flyleaf, but
Yeah, of course.
definitely. So let's go visit our aborted brother. Okay, so you find your brother you never had in a little corner of heaven devoted to those who died before they could even take a breath, even an underwater breath that filled lungs with cold, stained water.
Jesus Christ.
The place looks like some kind of lab because you guess even heaven has some kind of science to it. Yeah, he's a friggin' aborted fetus. What's up? Slang term influenced by gender variable that was saved but will never be used because who cares? Say, dude, is that gender neutral? I'm not sure. So we could go back to heaven, which we've already been to, or we could pursue
Aborted.
this some more. Fair enough.
Let's get aborted.
Damn, he sure looks weird. What is an abortion anyway? You can say for certain two things it isn't: a retry or a fail.
Fail.
Fail, that sounds good. You've never had much success at anything, school, friends, sports, but you can play a mean bidya.
Yes.
Oh well, it's all cool. You won't have to grow up now since you're dead. There's no growing up in the hereafter, right? I mean, you don't get to see any angels that look like your parents. Cool. That's what I was thinking too. Cool. Hey, I'm talking to you. I said cool. Are you cool? Your brother is younger than you, but he talks older. You're annoyed already, but really want to play Nemesis with him. You could each take 2 characters in high C's and swap controllers whenever yours comes up. This conversation feels pretty aborted.
I want to be aborted, but we haven't gone down the Nemesis lane yet because we
Fair.
just know it's death.
Fair. What do people in heaven do all day besides praising God? Is there mail?
Nothing.
Is there boys and girls kissing? Is there Nemesis? You desperately need something to do. Here is all clouds and outside voices. Heaven seems like the most stressful combination of inside and outside.
Let's see
So-
God.
God. Womp, womp, womp. Intensifies. God-
That sounds about right.
Is that you? Is what you think in your mind, and God presumably hears it because that's what he does. And here comes the womp, womp, womp of your goddamn life, or afterlife, you guess. You think
I'm already
about
mad
how
at
your
this depiction
house...
of our God. Incorrect.
You think about how your house was flooded and how your parents aren't here and how that makes you feel. How does that make you feel? Bad? I want my nemesis? I want my nemesis, or something about Sonic the Hedgehog's shoes.
Sonic. I'm going Christian route.
Sonic?
Yeah.
Very good. You don't want to talk about it, but you hate Sonic anyway. You prefer to play that game about the rape pirates.
Oh,
Which we
God.
can't because we don't have our Genesis. So but that's the only thing left. The game sure was buggy. Pirates based on infamous criminals sure do love rape. Fictional Chinese companies sure do love to make knockoff consoles that only play pirated cartridges. Pirate, 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 you are a pirate. And we're not going to click that because that'll definitely get us copyright struck by Lazy Town. If you love to sail the sea. Oh, we're back in heaven. Oh, look at this. And as you can see, the flooded thing is up a little bit, but it's going up.
We're properly. Oh no, it's negative, so we're fine then.
Oh yeah. We're fine for a while, but it is starting to rise. It is getting closer to zero.
This is
So
like Noah's Ark plus the day after tomorrow. Just literally the waters are rising up to the heavens.
that would be a good description of it. And now that you say that, I think I'll end there because I don't want to spoil too many of the ending things here. So I think I'll stop the screen there. You may have to play the game to find out.
Thank you.
On
That was very
Void
fun.
Scene, correct?
On Void Zine, yep. It is coming out tomorrow. It launches. I'm not sure what time it's launching, but Katie Naylor is getting it ready, and it's going to launch tomorrow. And if you want to check out all other manner of awesome interactive fiction shit, that's definitely the place to be.
And Katie's British, so it's already tomorrow there. So it may be live in a minute now.
It is. It could be. Yeah, it could. I don't know. I'm not sure how British man time works. Honestly, it eludes me. It's all yeah. But
Rudy,
yeah,
I love this fucking game. Rudy let me demo this, and I played and got all of the endings. So I won't spoil any of the endings for you guys, but it's fucking amazing. It's really, really fucking good. And I have to be careful with my critique or commentary on it because I don't want to spoil anything, because there's so many weird twists and turns to this thing that were not previewed here. So I think I'll just leave it at that's fucking awesome, man.
thank you. Yes.
Rudy, actually, how many different endings are there? You can probably say that without spoiling anything.
I believe there's 5 unique ones.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
Conflict of interest indeed.
Thank you, Gigi and Rachel for the help.
Adam, that was Adam Johnson.
Oh,
not
Adam.
Rachel Johnson.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Gigi and Adam Johnson, for the help.
So I think excuse me. I think we're gonna leave it there for the night. I will, as usual, leave the Zoom call open for a little while so people can socialize or whatever. But I do think we're going to call it a night there. Thank you, Rudy. Thank you, everyone who read and shared your work. This is fucking awesome, as usual. And it was nice to have, tonight was a light one. Tonight was a fun, a lot of funny pieces, a lot of lighthearted, kind of just broadly enjoyable pieces, which was a nice change after last week, which was so fucking heavy and profound. So it's good to be able to switch off. But anyway, this has been a great one. Thank you, everyone. As this has been Misery Loves Company. As I said at the top, we do this every week, Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific. We tweet out the link beforehand on our Twitter account at Misery Tourism, one word. And yeah, anyone's welcome to come. Anyone's welcome to share their work. Anyone's welcome to just hang out. All right, that's it. We're fucking done. Oops, I almost hit end instead of stopping the recording.